Exporting data is a great candidate for automation, and the Select to File activity handles most of your basic needs. But what if you have a little bit special situation that needs to be exported? In this case, you can use all the features of the Export Wizard activity. That's this one here underneath the database activities. So let's look at some scenarios of when using the Export Wizard automation activity would be appropriate. When you have a lot of rows to export, you should use the comma-separated format. It's the most common, and it will accommodate millions of rows where Excel will not. So for most exports to CSV, you would actually use the Select to File activity and just choose your export option type here. But if you have commas or quotation marks embedded in the cell values, you're going to need to change the quote characteristics. Now let's see how to do this. So we're going to add an Export Wizard activity. And the only input actually for this activity is an export template. You can create a new Export Wizard from automation by clicking the Build Template button here, or if you already have a template, you can edit it by clicking the Edit button. Let's go ahead and build a new one. So when you build a new one, let's go ahead and select our export type. You can select tables here, or views, or export a whole database, enter a text list, but the most common are these two, which is query and query file. Now when you enter a query, you just write it in here, and this select statement is going to stay inside of the template. If you want to just bind a query file, then you would use this. And the reason you might want to do that is if you often change your select statement and you don't want to change your Export Wizard template, then you would just want to bind to a file. So now go ahead and select the comma-separated values. And since we want to export values that contain commas and quotation marks, what you need to do is select this option here, Always Quote Strings. And then we also want to change the quote character to a symbol that you know that won't be used in your string values. I like to use the vertical bar here a lot. That tends to not be used. Now all you have to do is export your file path, whatever you want to call it. Choose the overwrite option if that's applicable, or you can even add a suffix if you like. And then you need to save this template here to a location. We'll just call it Export Demo and replace that one. And so now you're ready to go. And you can go ahead and execute that. And there you go. Now let's look at a different scenario where, let's say you want to use that export template, but you want to use it against a different database. So here we have two Access databases. Let's say that you want to export from this database into this one here. So you actually don't need to redefine that template. What you can do is just come here and select the Use Automation Connection option. So this means to ignore the connection that was used in the template. Instead, you want to use whatever selection you've made here. So I'm now pointing it to this address. So I'm saying, please export from this database. And we just save that, and it goes ahead and exports from the address database. Another scenario you might want to know about would be exporting to Access. There's a lot of different export types, but exporting to Access is also a good one to know about. So let's just get rid of this one, and let's take a look quickly at how you would do that. So we're going to build another one here real quick. I'm just going to add a table to export instead of a query. And so now I'm going to change this type to export to an Access database file. Here you can export to a brand new file if you like, or If you want to go and point to an existing file, you can export into a new table in that file and just give it a name. Or if you want to append the data into an existing table, go ahead and select existing table and choose it. Or if you would like to truncate it, you can just delete the rows and then reinsert. So there's a lot of different options to exporting that can be defined in the Export Wizard. If you find something missing, well, let me know and we'll consider adding. Exporting is a very important automation feature, and in another video I'll cover importing data, which is equally important.